Glorified be the name of our Heavenly Father, Yahweh Elohim. Glorified be our Lord, Mashiach Yahawashi. And glorified be the akaTHE. Greetings to the whole elects, all the Israelites, and all the good people of all nations that believe in the gospel of peace and salvation. Alright, now it's led by the Spirit. It's going to be my last video of the night. Most High be willing, providing He blesses us with another day tomorrow. We'll go as the Spirit pushes, We're going to call this one David and Goliath, which aka is us, because we're the house of David. Saying against the juggernauts of the global elites of this world, and also the covenant between Jonathan, which is us, the Great Awakening, and David, which is Yahawashi, because Yahawashi is the seed of David. You understand that Saul represents our fathers, physically, and our fathers, we inherited lies and curses from our ancestors, So let's get edified. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle. They were gathered at Sokon, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Sukam and Asihah and Ephraim. Saul and the Israelites gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah, and forced ranks against the Philistines. The Philistines stood on the mountain on one side, and the Israelites stood on the mountain on the other side. And on the valley between them there came from out a camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. So basically, he was like about 18 feet tall, man. He was a fucking beast, man. He was remnant of the giants. Whose height was, like I said, 6 cubits in a span. He had a helmet of bronze in his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail. The weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had greaves of bronze on his legs and gems of bronze slung between his shoulders. Basically, like he was wearing 500 pounds of metal armor. The shaft of his spear was like a weaven beam, and his spearhead weighed 600 shekels of iron. And his shield bearer went before him. He stood, shouted to the ranks of the Israelites, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? Are you not a servant of Saul? Choose a man for yourself, and let him come down to me, and if he is able to fight with me and kill me, then he will be your servant. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servant and serve us." And the Philistine defied the ranks. And the Philistines said, "Today I defy the ranks of Israel. Give me a man that he may fight together." When Saul and all the Israelites heard these words of the Philistines, they were afraid and dismayed, and greatly afraid, right? And now David was the son of Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, right? From the branch of Jesse, right? Now he had 8 sons, and in the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. The 3 eldest sons of Jesse had followed Saul to the battle. Yeah, see, that's why Yahawashi's number is the 8, man, because he's the right hand of the 7, man. For your name, for your knowledge. Now, Saul, Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. The 3 eldest, so it's like if he had 8 sons, right? In the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. The 3 eldest sons of Jesse, he's talking about Jesse was old, right? They had followed Saul to the battle. The names of the 3 sons who went to battle were Eliab, the firstborn. The next to him was Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest. The 3 eldest followed Saul. David went back and forth from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. He was a shepherd of sheep just like Yahawashi is, for 40 days, and the Philistines came forward and took his stand morning and evening, right? Jesse said to his son David, "Take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain and these 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also take 10 sheaves to the commanders of their 1,000. See how your brothers fare, and bring some tokens from them." Now Saul and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. David rose early in the morning, left the sheep with a keeper, took the provisions, and went as Jesse commanded him. He came to the encampment as the army was going forth to the battle line, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. David left the things in charge of the keepers, right? of baggage, the keeper of the baggage, ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. As he walked with them, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before. And David heard him, right? And all the Israelites, when they saw the man, fled from him and were very much afraid. The Israelites said, "Have you seen this this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. The king will greatly enrich the man who kills him, and will give him his daughter and make his family tree free in Israel." David said to the man who stood by him, "What shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living Yahweh Elohim?" The people answered him in the same way. So shall it be done for the man who kills him. His eldest brother Eliab heard him talking to the man, and Eliab angered was kindled against David. He said, "Why have you come down with whom you have left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down just to see the battle." David said, "What have I done now? It was only a question." He returned away from him towards another and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before. When the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, Let no one's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with the Philistine." Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you're just a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it and struck it down, rescued the lamb from its mouth, and if it turned against me, I will catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, since he has defied the armies of Yahweh, the living Elohim." David said, "As the Most High who saved me from the paws of the lion and from the paws of the bear will save me from the hands of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Most High be with you." Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a bronze helmet on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. David strapped Saul's sword over his shoulder, over the armor, and he tried to vainly walk forward, right? For he was not used to them, right? Then David said to Saul, "I cannot walk with these things, for I am not used to them." So David removed from them, and he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from them, right? Now you know why Most High says that Mashak said that you have to be be born as a child to enter the kingdom, because when you're a child, man, you have a passion, man, that you believe with all your heart and soul, man. You know how it was, man, when while a wild young man, you know what I'm saying, your passion, your flair, man, and see you're not defiled. You can give it 1,000 because you're not you don't have the worries of the world. You're not jaded by a woman or ambition of money. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have that passion, man. And he had that flair for the Most High, right? So he put them in his shepherd's bag in his pouch, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine, right? The Philistine came on and drew near to David with his shield bare in front of him. When the Philistine looked at and saw David, he disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods, by his paganism. The Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the wild animals of the field." But David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of Yahweh, O Elohim, the host and the Most High of Israel, whom you have defied. This very day Yahweh will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, and I will give the dead bodies of the Philistines' army this every day to his birds, of the air, and to the wild animals of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there is there is the living Elohim is with Israel, right? Now all this assembly may know that Yahweh Elohim does not save by the sword and spear, for the battle is the Most High, and He will give you into your hand. That's true, man. No weapons, saying can like Isaiah says, man, will succeed in you when you have the Most High on your side, when the Philistines when the Philistine drew near to meet David, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone, slung it, and stroked the Philistine on the forehead. And the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face first on the ground. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, striking down the Philistine and killing him. There was no sword in David's hand. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine. He grabbed his sword, drew it out of his sheath, and killed him. Then he cut off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled, and the troops of Israel and Judah rose up and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as Gath and the gates of Ekron, and the gates of Ekron, and so that the wounded Philistines fell on the way from Sharam as far as Gath and Ekron. The Israelites came back from chasing Philistines, and they plundered the champion David. David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem. He put it in his armor in his tent. So when Saul saw David go out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Whose son is this young man? Abner said, As your soul lives, O king, I do not know. The king said, inquiring, Whose son the trampling is? On David's return from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his head. Saul said to him, Whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. See, and we're the house of David, man, and all these other, all these other worldly people and our people, they're afraid to speak against, the powers, the global elite, man, the Illuminati, but we're not. You know what I'm saying? We speak it and see, and we're not using swords, man. We're destroying them with the truth, man. We're swinging the sword of the words of Yahweh, Hashem, Yahawashi, man. You know what I'm saying? And they know that this awakening is a threat to them, man. They know that their kingdom is about to end. Now it says, chapter 18, right? Jonathan's covenant with David. When David had finished speaking to Saul, and you see us, man, we're Israel, and we have a covenant because we're the house of David. You know what I'm saying? This is Yahawashi, you know what I'm saying? And see, David risked his life, man, for his sheep, man, just like Yahawashi gave his life for us, who we're his sheep, we're his flock. See? Now, when David had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was bound to the soul of David. See, just like us, man, we're bound, to Yahawashi, man. You know what I'm saying? He gave us the Comforter, Holy Spirit, man. So we love it, man, because we have His Spirit in us. You know what I'm saying? And we know that He wants to please the Father. So we love doing His work, man. It's a flare, it's a fire. The zeal of the elect. That's why I do these videos, man. Even if nobody watches them, it don't matter, man, because I know the angels are, man. This is my testimony at the end of the day, man. And it's bringing light to the sorcery. You know what I'm saying? That these Illuminati, the powers that be have put spells in the earth, man. Now, the soul of Jonathan was bound to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. See, that will give our life for Yahawashi, and we're gonna have to. Some of us, have to do that, man. Saul took him that day, and will not let him return to his father's house. Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him, see, as his own soul. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that he was wearing and gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword, and his bow, and his belt. See, just like us, man, we gave our life away of the world, man, to follow Mashiach, man. David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him. As a result, Saul sent him over the army and all the people, even the servants of Saul, food. As they were coming home, when David returned from killing the Philistine, the woman came out of all the towns of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tabrets and with songs of joy and with musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they made merry. Saul has killed his 1,000 and David his 10,000. Saul was very angry for this saying. This pleased him. He said, They have ascribed to David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed 1,000. What more can he have but the kingdom? So Saul's eyes David from that day on. Yeah, he started getting jealous, man. He got mad, but he can't take credit for for something that he didn't even do, man. He didn't want to step to because he didn't have faith, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, see, when you have fear, fear is the opposite of faith. See, cause see, and that's where in the day of judgment we're supposed to have faith that we're gonna be granted mercy, and see the world's gonna have fear, man. Take note, fam. Now see, it says Saul tries to kill David. See, from that point on conspiracy, that's why even us, our own people, are gonna turn on us, man. And Mashaki Hawashai said that. The next day, an evil spirit from Yahweh Elohim rushed upon Saul, man. Yeah, cause the right hand and the left hand is under the Most High, and he raved within his house while David was playing the lyre as he did day by day. Saul had his spear in his hand, and Saul threw the spear, for he thought, I will pin David to the wall. But David eluded him twice. Saul was afraid of David because the Most High was with him, but had departed from Saul. See, that's why that's why the Most High is only with the remnant, the 1/3, man. So Saul removed him from his presence and made him a commander of 1,000, and David marched out and came in leading the army. David had succeeded in all his undertakings, for Yahweh Elohim was with him. When Saul saw that he had great success, he stood in awe of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, for it was he who marched out and came in leading them. Yeah, man, he took the lead, man. And see, everybody's always gonna love, saying that the general that's on the battlefield, not the one that's in the back. You know what I'm saying? So I hope to edify, man, because Goliath represents the powers that be, and we're the house of David, and Jonathan, in that aspect represents us, the great awakening. You know what I'm saying? And David represents Yahawashi. So on that note, I want to say shalom, man.